What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Paper Warrior 20, back at you again with a different kind of video this week. You know, March Madness is going on. It's my favorite time of the year. It's better than Christmas. It's better than that one week of July where it's not too hot, where you want to kill yourself. This is March Madness, and you know what? We're going to come at you with a bracket. And I don't know. I like Star Wars. I know everyone else out there likes Star Wars, unless you're one of those weird haters. I, I mean, the only people that I know that don't like Star Wars are those people that pretended like they weren't nerds in high school. You know the type, the ones that you go up to and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I definitely don't wipe my ass." Like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm too cool for that." And to those of you out there, you suck. But we're here today just to talk about some Star Wars. Now, I made a ranking of the 10 movies that have been released, the live action movies, that is. And now, based on and ranked on where they ranked on the IMDb scores, were there some surprises on here? No, not really. Well, The Last Jedi, but we can talk about The Last Jedi in a minute. I am more fond for The Last Jedi than I think most people are. But let's get into it. First, we have Solo versus Attack of the Clones. Now, I have two very different experiences with these two different movies. For Solo, I think I saw it two times when it was in theaters. It was, I think, the height of my Star Wars fandom, at least in recent memory. And I don't remember it being as bad as people said. Obviously, it bombed at the box office, and we haven't really gotten to see many Star Wars movies outside of that until we see the Mandalorian Grogu. But I liked it. I didn't think it was that bad. I remember like a general sense of like, yeah, no, that's Han Solo. That dude is a cool cat. I want to be that guy. But it's very different from Attack of the Clones, which I grew up with. Now, Attack of the Clones is widely hated in at least the circles I'm in. But come on, let's be real. It's funny. And I think that's the thing you have to walk into these Lucasfilm movies with is an idea of I'm not here for a good time. I'm here to make my own good time. You can't have a good time unless you make your own good time with some of these movies here. But with that being said, I think Attack of the Clones is a little bit more painful. But the interesting thing with it is it's gotten such a cult following that I feel like based on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok or whatever it is, all of a sudden Attack of the Clones is more interesting than a lot of the movies on here. And I that's really interesting of today's day and age is that people surrounding us can make something just so much better just by the fact that we all see that it's ridiculous. It's the same reason I kind of like the Emoji Movie. I mean, nobody likes going and watching the Emoji Movie, but the fact that everyone's like, you know what, we're going to take this with a grain of salt and we're going to be a little ironic with it, makes me like it a little bit more. I'm putting Attack of the Clones over Solo. Submit that. All right. Now to our other bracket, our play-in bracket, if you will, is Rogue One versus Phantom Menace, and I don't think this is close. I think Phantom Menace has the same weaknesses as Attack of the Clones in a sense, but it doesn't have those same peaks that Attack of the Clones does. Whereas Rogue One, again, I don't think I didn't take Rogue One as anything greater than it is at the time it was released. And I didn't really like it all that much when it was released. I missed the music at the beginning. I missed the crawl at the beginning. I missed the fact that there weren't any real lightsaber battles. And I missed that there wasn't this sense of magic in it. This gets recontextualized with Andor. And it creates this character that wasn't on the face of the movie when it first released, but in a way is recontextualized and recreated to be this fascinating character with this spirituality, this magic aspect to him that's really different than the rest of these movies. Where it really feels, I feel like Rogue One is a lived in world where I could see this happening, right? 30 years from now, if a magical time traveler gets sucked into our universe by a black hole, and they say, you know what, there's other planets out there, and I'm going to take you to the future, and we're going to see where society is thousands of years from now, and I get sucked into this world, I think it's going to be something like Rogue One, where it's this Vietnam kind of war disaster kind of situation, and it's more real life, it's more adult. I like Rogue One better. Give me Rogue One. All right, let's start from the beginning. Empire Strikes Back versus Attack of the Clones. Now listen, I'm not a huge fan of Empire Strikes Back, and I mean, I think the thing with Empire Strikes Back is that there are so many things that are ingrained in society and the Star Wars culture as a whole that it's difficult to parse those things out until you go through a rewatch of The Empire Strikes Back. And when you do that, you realize that there's all these things that are new and fresh. There's a Yoda in this movie. You know, Darth Vader actually becomes a main character when he wasn't in the original A New Hope. I mean, Lando, we hear in Sky City, Luke's arm being cut off. Luke, I am your father. Sorry for all the spoilers out there. I didn't mean to spoil it for anybody. But really, it takes looking back on it and actually mentally walking yourself through it to realize how groundbreaking Empire Strikes Back was. For that reason, Empire Strikes Back is going to take the win. A New Hope versus The Force Awakens. Now it's kind of ironic that they're ranked 5 and 4, and that A New Hope is ranked lower than Force Awakens, which I don't like. When The Force Awakens is just a revamp of A New Hope. Now listen, I think it might be the TikTok brain and the way our society is now, but I can't really watch a movie from before the year 2000 without having a little bit of pain in my brain. I was watching, oh, what was it? I was watching probably Raiders of the Lost Ark the other day, and I was watching this old movie from old movie. Look at me talking about old movies from the 80s. But no, I was watching these older movies from the 1970s, the 1980s, and I realized that one of the big things is there wasn't a lot of music in these movies. And that kind of goes into the New Hope too. I feel like if there was a score that was pumped throughout and it had a little bit of the editing of today's world, I would like a New Hope a little bit more. The irony of that is I feel like I'm just talking about The Force Awakens, but there's some things that The New Hope does that The Force Awakens does not. I think Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, they're all just better characters than the characters established in The Force Awakens. But again, the problem with that is this is within the context of having multiple movies to build these characters up in different contexts. I don't know if I like a Luke Skywalker better than a Rey, whatever her last name is, if I don't have those different movies to kind of differentiate the two. Because to be honest, in the first movie, I'm not a big fan of Luke. So the pros of New Hope is I think it's a better story. I think I like the characters a little bit better. The cons of New Hope is the age factor, the age factor. It's not edited like a modern movie. The effects aren't as great as the modern movies. The lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader is the worst one of the series, but it's hard to differentiate that between what we like and what we've seen and what's nostalgic and what we like from there. But with that being said, I'll go to New Hope. It's just if it's nostalgia, then it's nostalgia. You can fight me. The Last Jedi versus Revenge of the Sith. Now, I guess I like The Last Jedi. I like aspects of The Last Jedi, and that's what's driven me crazy about The Last Jedi conversation that we've had over the past 10 years or whatever it's been, is that I think there's really high highs in The Last Jedi, but the lows are very low in The Last Jedi. I did not like the Finn and I don't know her name. The Asian girl that went with Finn to the planet and they talked about the dangers of gambling and the dangers of animal endangerment. That part of the movie I hated. I also hated Leia flying through the sky. I also hated the fact that Luke Skywalker didn't get to fight with a lightsaber in a battle and he died from the Force. Like he killed himself, I think. Those parts I don't like. I do like the overall Luke Skywalker story. I think that it works, and I don't understand everyone that says that it doesn't work. I think that if you don't believe that somebody like Luke Skywalker would be capable of living on a planet by yourself and being isolated, then I don't think you understand real life. I think part of life is we all grow, we all make mistakes, and we all screw up, and we change as people. Now, there's a big time gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And in that time frame, there's all these things that happen. And I don't think it's implausible that somebody like Luke, who's this powerful being that's trying to protect the universe, has a moment of, oh no, I have to take my nephew out. This guy could be dangerous, and this guy could ruin a lot of lives. And I don't think that somebody that does not believe that could happen, I don't think that they've experienced enough life to actually know what goes on in life and to realize that we're not all heroes. I feel like that's the one major negative that I've learned throughout, all my experience. I called a movie from the 80s old earlier, so take that with a grain of salt. But from what I've learned, I mean, from what I've seen, nobody's perfect, and anybody that you put on a pedestal is going to be torn down if you look with a microscope hard enough. And it happens with everybody. We're even talking about Cesar Chavez in the year of our Lord 2026. Come on. Things happen. Luke Skywalker could have easily had a moment of, I want to kill this guy. So I like that part of the story. Now, Revenge of the Sith, I also think is a very flawed movie with a lot of high highs. I love the beginning, the space battle, and everything up until they get to the planet. I love the reveal of Anakin, I'm pregnant, and Anakin going, oh no, but yay, I love you. I'm ready to have a kid with you, and I'm excited, but oh no. I also think that the turn to the dark side was done pretty well. But there's a lot of things around that bring down the movie for me. I think that the Jedi Council acts illogically and they don't act how they would in the previous movies. I think the General Grievous stuff and Obi-Wan Kenobi is weak, but they have to have it so they can pull Obi-Wan Kenobi away from the main story so he survives. I don't think that somebody like Anakin would have that drastic of a jump to start killing little children mere minutes, hours after he decided to join Darth Sidious. It's such a quick turn to go that evil that I think in my mind that it doesn't quite compute. It doesn't quite work. But then again, you get to the end of the movie, those high highs, you're fighting Lord Sidious, Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin. The volcano planet, Mustafar, come on. The visuals, perfect. The story, perfect. You can feel the heartbreak from these people, and it's easily the best of the prequel trilogy. And for that reason, I think that Revenge of the Sith doesn't quite hit the low lows of The Last Jedi. I feel like The Last Jedi is kind of preachy. Even though I like the messaging, listen, I'm anti gambling. I don't like FanDuel. And I don't like animal cruelty. Of course I don't. But there's a way to do that in a movie and talk about that in a movie without being so preachy and, I'll say it, annoying. So I'm going to go Revenge of the Sith. Okay, now to the bottom of the bracket, Rogue One versus Return of the Jedi. I talked a lot about how Rogue One might be the most realistic movie for me out of all these Star Wars movies, but Return of the Jedi, while again, I think it runs into the same weaknesses as like a Revenge of the Sith, there's some weak moments in there. I easily feel the best out of Return of the Jedi out of any of these movies. If I was stuck on a desert planet with one movie for the rest of my life and I have to find something that keeps a little positivity going, I'm putting in Return of the Jedi into my little VHS on my desert planet. It's positive, it's good. The last half of the movie is my favorite, I think, of the series, with Luke facing off against Vader and this internal battle he has of, I need to defeat this guy, but I know there's some good in him. But also, if I beat him, then I'm turning to the dark side and I'm becoming him. I'm becoming the person that I sought need to destroy that's threatening my family, and I can't let that happen. There's those highs. There's the highs of the second Death Star being blown up. There's the highs of that last montage, which is the best also edited part of the new edits to the movies, is that song and the Ewoks dancing, and I love it. For that reason, I'm going to put Return of the Jedi above Rogue One. Even though I could go back and forth on this, I feel like this is a close battle. I don't understand how Return of the Jedi is that much higher than Rogue One in these IMDb rankings. But maybe that's just because I have an inflated sense of ego and I like certain movies better than others. We'll go with that. Empire Strikes Back versus A New Hope. Here's the thing. Is we talked about the negatives of A New Hope earlier. I don't necessarily know if I like the characters in A New Hope in and of itself, but with the recontextualization and the movement of the story in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I begin to like the characters a little bit more. Along with that, Empire Strikes Back just has a better overall story, I believe. It adds new characters and new methods and theories and different ideas into the story that didn't exist in A New Hope. And sorry, I don't think Lucas knew that Darth Vader was Luke's father when he was making A New Hope. That just maybe there's a story out there or something written that some fans are going to point me to, but I just don't believe it. I'm going to go New Hope. I mean, Empire Strikes Back here. I think it's better, and I think most people agree with me. Revenge of the Sith versus Return of the Jedi. Now, Return of the Jedi is probably the weakest movie out of the original trilogy, and Revenge of the Sith is the strongest movie out of the prequel trilogy. So it's interesting. I think they fall into the same pitfalls. There's weaknesses in both movies. The highs are very high. I think Revenge of the Sith just has one too many highs compared to Return of the Jedi, and that's why I would put it above it. I mean, just because there are so many action set pieces and the emotion is so raw throughout the movie, I think I'm going Revenge of the Sith. All right, Empire Strikes Back versus Revenge of the Sith. And I gotta be honest, I don't even think it's close. I think the closest competition in this race was Empire Strikes Back versus A New Hope. And I think that really was going to determine who the winner was here. But come on, I think everyone knows it's A New Hope. And I think everyone agrees. I said A New Hope, didn't I? I think everyone agrees it's Empire Strikes Back. Just the characters it brings into it, the emotion it brings into it. It's iconic, I think, in almost every single scene. It's a rewatchable if you're on that side of the internet. I'm going to go Empire Strikes Back. And there's our winner, Empire Strikes Back. Let me know where you would have done a little bit differently, and let me know where you think I'm just flat out wrong, because I am wrong most of the time. But thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you later.